From the Concord Food Co-op, Leslie's back in the house. How are you?
I'm great. Yeah. Great.
And good to have you back.
Thank you. Good to be here.
We pushed Greg out of the way, or what?
Yes, Yes, I know. Yes.
Cool.
He's off.
Okay.
But listening.
We miss you, Greg.
Hey, Greg.
Can't say it with a straight face. What? Come on. What are you doing? And by the way, I did want to again congratulate you. You're on the board of the Concord Coalition
To end homelessness. Yes.
And you also do something else that we haven't talked about, which I think is great. You volunteer CRVNA hospice.
Yes.
So cool.
Yes.
So cool that you do that.
Yes. I'm sort of easing my way in. There's so many different opportunities, so I'm sort of dabbling in a bunch. But this weekend, I'm actually going to visit patients at a nursing home. So it's just company, really.
Yeah, but I mean you got to be comfortable in your own skin to do stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so I applaud you for that.
Thanks.
I think that is so cool.
Thanks. Yeah. It's not
I know some
easy.
I know some people who've done it, and they play cards or talk or whatever, just there. And God love them. I just think that's a wonderful thing.
It's wonderful how many people actually do volunteer. I was shocked.
Really?
And even in the training course that I did, there was probably 15 people, and it's an ongoing course for 8 weeks.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah,
so cool.
It's great.
Everybody wants to be part of community, to be accepted, to be seen.
Well, and I think more so because let's face it, death is not one of those things you talk about. And when you have people say, no, we do need to talk about it, you force the conversation through things like this. Okay, then it brings it to the forefront, and it's like, well, Leslie's doing it. Okay, so then, but because we know you, now that opens the conversation that heretofore had not been open.
Yes.
So I think that's a good thing.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
That's cool.
Yes.
So let's see. What are we doing today?
We're going to talk about death.
Blending wellness practices.
I was gonna say, that's not what I signed up for.
That could be a future topic, though. I would be excited.
You'll be here for that. We'll bring you back for that.
I'll work it in today.
Yeah.
But we talk about with so many.
Oh, we die every day. I mean, listen to the show.
We talk about so many different wellness practices on this program,
Yes.
and this is sort of an attempt to sort of figure out can we blend them together or hit more than one if you have a limited amount of time. Like, how do you incorporate all the healthy eating, activity? How can you blend it all together? So
good point. Allison's back with us. Allison Lellos. Did I do it right?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Owner of, I'm always panicky when I see it. Karma Kids, New Hampshire, local teacher, yoga instructor, health coach, provides yoga and meditation, not mediation, but meditation services for children, teachers, and caregivers to support big emotions and, as Leslie said, busy lifestyles. For more information, you can contact Karma Kids NH at 568-2763 or karmakidsnh@gmail.com. Jim Readey is ready.
I like that. I've never heard that before.
Yeah,
Peter.
I bet you haven't. Has been teaching yoga and meditation for the past 25 years. Former New Hampshire attorney. Do you still have your license?
My license, that's a good question. I don't.
If I slip on the stairs, can I call you? Are you gonna?
You can call me anytime, Peter.
Okay,
but I don't think I have it technically because I haven't kept up with the annual dues, so they take it away. I'd have to ask for reinstatement.
All right, then a former New Hampshire attorney and Concord Food Co-op board member. His mission is to help individuals live their healthiest, happiest, and fullest lives possible. In addition to yoga, he also leads workshops and retreats in conscious communication, men's work, I love you, man, couples work, and, wait for it, mindful improv comedy.
Mindful improv.
NHYogaCenter.com. Take 6 breaths at gmail.com. Why 6? What's wrong with 5? Why 8? What's?
There's a little story behind that.
I figured there would be.
All right, there's a part of the world in Pakistan and actually Nepal where they practice taking 15-second breaks for meditation throughout the day. They do it 100 times. And do the math on that. If it's about 15 seconds for each of that, I think it comes
15 seconds 100 times a day.
It's like 25 minutes total. So they're meditating for 25 minutes, but they don't pack it all into the morning and then act like idiots for the rest of the day like a lot of people in our culture do.
Why are you looking at me when you say that?
I don't know.
I'm shocked. I'm offended.
But they do it throughout the day. It becomes their touchstone. They'll just stop what they're doing and they'll breathe and they'll meditate, maybe standing there while they're sweeping or whatever they're doing. And I thought that's a really great practice. So I started to practice it And I recognized that after 3 breaths, which is about the 15 seconds allotment, I still didn't feel relaxed. So I kept doing it until I felt relaxed. And I noticed it required that I get to the 5th breath before I felt a downshift. And then I added 1 more breath because I didn't want to just rush back to what I was doing after I finally downshifted. So I did 6 breaths, and it was about 30 seconds. And I theorized that in our culture, we're just moving at such a quicker pace than they are in that part of the world that we need about twice as long for those mini breaks, those mini meditation
Now, I
breaks.
see you nodding your head, Allison. You're on board with this?
Oh, totally.
Okay.
Oh, totally. No, just the fact that everything is so fast-paced, it kind of connects directly with our topic today of like blending wellness practices and making sure we get everything in, because all of us want to do something to better our lives, but we feel like we don't have the time to do it. And so everything else outside of ourselves takes priority. So just kind of fitting in little pieces throughout the day is so much more beneficial than feeling pressure to fit it in all in one fell swoop or just ignoring it altogether. So.
Now, both of you know, well, actually, all 3 of you know, if you talk to people individually, they'll go, yeah, you're right. But they don't do it.
Right.
Okay, they all know what they're supposed to do. They get the benefits, but yeah, I got to go back to work now.
Because they don't really know and they don't really get it. They're knowing it intellectually, but they're not knowing it experientially yet. And there's all different levels of learning. And intellectual is just sort of like the entree as far as I'm concerned. You can read something and you say, yeah, I've heard that, I've read that, I memorized that. But are you really
I don't have
practicing
time
it?
to go in the backyard and do the Tai Chi and roll out a yoga mat. That's the perception. It's like, I don't have time for this. So, okay, but the 2 of you were saying, yeah. You're saying 15 seconds, 30 seconds, 100 times, blah. And you're saying, yeah, makes sense.
Just start with one.
It's the presentation, I think. People are just, they think that, I've got to do this like 1 hour program, and I don't have time for that stuff.
This is how I usually operate when I'm talking to someone like you're describing. I would say, would you just for 30 seconds take some breaths with me? Let's just stop what we're doing and let's do it so that they have the experience of it. So Peter, would you just stop right now and breathe for 30 seconds with me?
But Jim, I'm already breathing.
In a slow breath, a mindful breath, so that you're actually feeling it in your body and not doing anything. So you're not talking, not actively engaging in your thoughts, just observing. Would you do that with me right now?
Yes, Jim, I would.
You really? I was surprised that you said yes, because we're on the air and you're not going to allow there to be 30 seconds of
Well, if we can show
dead
people
time.
that it's that easy, then
do
it's
it.
worth it.
Can the rest of us join you?
Please.
Talk to him. This is
This
his. I don't know.
power and community. Everybody wants to be part of the community.
Want me to hum?
And Leslie checked out, so I don't even know what's going
Yeah, if
on.
you could chant over there, that would be great.
Bob wants to
Chant.
hum or
I was
chant.
already
Chant or
doing
hum?
it. That's why I'm so quiet.
I was sold.
You are on record. We have video of this, Leslie, so you better be telling the truth that you were actually doing it.
I was breathing.
Okay.
Now, of course you're breathing, but what do you mean by breathing?
Zoom
I was
in on
breathing
that, will
and
you?
listening, so I was not focusing on my breath. I was focusing on listening.
So here's my tip of the day for breathing is don't focus on your inhalation. That's what they do on TV when they're exaggerating or when they're saying, hey, you need to slow down. Let's take a breath together. And they take this big exaggred
Am I
inhalation.
supposed to hold it?
I would not recommend that.
Well, I
think
mean-
most people are doing a little of that already. They're triggering flight or fight response. So
Really?
if you want to trigger flight or fight response, go ahead and hold your breath if you're about to get into a fight or need to run away.
Really?
Yeah.
So it's just the breathing in and breathing out. It's
Well-
not holding it. It's not doing
You
any.
can pause at the top, but
But don't
Okay,
try to
okay.
pause. Don't try to pause because you'll
No,
you'll
I
pause
know to
naturally.
you this seems like an inane question.
No,
For people who don't know.
No,
What, am I supposed to take a deep
breath?
breath and hold it or what? It sounds basic, but people don't know.
Yeah. No, I've come to expect these kinds of questions from you, Peter. So
Thank you. That's my job. Yeah, but see,
But excellent-
but see, this is why I ask these questions, because the conversation, if we let it go, you're up here. You have forgotten stuff that people have no knowledge of. So that means our conversation is up here when we're trying to start the conversation down here and include people. That's why I ask the questions to bring you back down. That's my job.
you saying that I've lost touch with reality.
Yeah,
So,
pretty much.
Okay.
Is that what you got? Okay.
But-
Funny that you made that leap, Jim, but okay. That's another show.
when I want to go back around to something that you said, like if someone's thinking, oh, I don't have time to like go into my backyard or do Tai Chi or roll out my yoga
Right.
mat, I think that's exactly what we're talking about, kind of dispelling misconceptions. Everyone thinks of like, let's say meditation, because I believe meditation is really closely tied to being really mindful about everything else that we're doing and pulling it all together. You know, meditation doesn't have to be some kind of like hippy dippy, like devote an hour, sit in silence. Like for some people that sounds awful, but that's what we envision when we hear
Sure it is.
meditation. But kind of dispelling that misconception, saying, no, maybe it's just taking a couple mindful breaths and focusing on the exhalation. So you're clearing your mind and just giving yourself those couple seconds of respite and getting in touch with yourself. Because I think often enough we don't get in touch with ourselves and just take a quiet moment and realize what exactly that we need. If we're paying attention, then we're able to begin the process of like, okay, like what can I add into my life in small increments to make me feel like I'm pulling it all together somewhat.
Makes sense. That makes sense. There's a guy who does yoga videos on YouTube. Would you know the name? You'd probably recognize the name.
I'm just laughing because there are
I
like
don't know.
There are probably many
there are 100
men
million
doing yoga on YouTube.
Yeah, but I don't know. I saw one of his videos, and it's not something I've done. But I was watching him, and I'm going, this is pretty good, because he was laughing, he was having fun, there was music, and it wasn't oh my God, the torture that we think. But he was doing, okay, now you're doing this, you guys doing this at home? You, move over. Yeah, you, okay. They're having fun. And I went,
Yeah.
okay, that's kind of cool, as opposed to, is this going to hurt? Is this going to be torture? And even though we don't want to, we want to follow him, but we don't. And if we don't, then we're shortchanging ourselves. We're the only one that suffers out of this deal.
Yeah.
But I saw the videos and I went, oh, Jim would get this. I could see
Yeah.
you doing that.
You know that part of the bio, every time when you read it, you pause, you say, now wait for it.
Yeah, I know.
Mindful improv. It's the same idea. That the reason that I got into it was because I started to realize there were a bunch of parallels between improvisational comedy and the spiritual practices that I've been studying for so many years.
Yeah, but I'm trying to help your career, okay?
What are you talking about?
Huh?
What do you mean?
That's why I take the pause.
Oh no, no, I love
Suspense.
it. I love it.
Yeah, obviously I'm taking better your career than you are. I'm trying.
Well, thank you. No, I wasn't.
Do you
I
need
wasn't,
money
I wasn't.
to pay the bar?
I wasn't criticizing you at all.
Oh, okay.
You're talking about the legal bar
Yeah.
or the bar tab? What
Well,
are you referring to?
Again,
Come
I
on.
see where you're going with this.
You know where you're going with this?
And Allison's going, seriously, Leslie, you signed me up for this?
You know where you?
I signed up for this myself. I'm kind of wondering
to
about my
yourself.
decisions here.
I want to name something here.
Okay.
What's gone on for the last 5 minutes or so is there's been a lot of intellectualization, but we haven't done the 6 breaths.
I was just going to say
Thank you,
that.
Bob. Say more.
I was just
Well,
going to
he's
say
the one that took
Go ahead.
off on
Bob,
that. You
we
started the
started-
6
No,
breaths.
this is
then
on-
you do the story about
this
15
is on
seconds.
recorded record.
Then it
We
was
will go-
30 seconds.
We'll go back and look at the video,
And then
we'll
you
see.
asked, how, whether
Yeah.
we pause
and then he
at the
takes
top.
off, and I'm
Peter
doing
asked,
Lassie
right,
come
Bob?
home.
Peter asked.
Peter was the one who was diverting us.
And then I was going to say Peter is going to next ask whether we breathe in through the nose or the mouth.
Leslie, you want
But
to
he
go have
never
coffee?
did. He never got to that.
Just
did
let
he?
these-
We didn't get there.
He didn't get there. And
No.
and I'm not trying to pick out.
So what's the story?
I'm not trying to pick on Peter specifically. Well, maybe I am. But what I'm trying to say
It's like
is
throwing
that
spitballs at a battleship. Go ahead.
this is so typical in our culture that we are very comfortable intellectualizing. We are a heady culture.
Very much so.
Yeah, very left.
We all believe we think we know everything.
Yeah. And what was it that Descartes said? Speaking of intellectualizing, I
Well-
think, therefore I am. And that's how we identify ourselves with being alive, is if we can wrap our minds around something. And we tend to avoid being. We tend to avoid being.
Well, I
We're
think,
very
and
uncomfortable
part of
with
that,
it.
I think, and this is just me, I think part of that is social media, because you are hanging out with people that are similarly minded like you are. So if you object to something or think you know something, you're talking to these people. Yeah, we know. Boom, problem solved. People aren't thinking about these things because, well, she agrees with me. There you go.
Well,
Great.
even if we think we know, like we've read it, we're all saying, everyone knows what they need to do, they just don't do it. So it's easy to say, like, okay, I've got all the tools, but then when it comes time, it's so hard to apply it because it feels incredibly vulnerable. We are intellectualizing and we're not taking time to actually apply it or mindfully think about how it can benefit our lives or just small incremental steps. And so everyone gets so overwhelmed being in the position of, oh, okay, it seems like I have to make so many overwhelming changes where that doesn't have to be the case at all. Maybe it's just small, sustainable things that you're doing every single day. But knowing that, it's one thing to know, but it's another to actually go beyond and say, like, okay, I'm going to move any of my obstacles out of my way that are keeping me from actually applying it and just try it. Because everyone, even when you were saying going into yoga, like, oh, I couldn't do that. I couldn't bend into that pose. yoga or meditation or eating well or any of these things, you don't have to be good at it. It's going into it knowing that if you want to come out the other side or even go into it bettering yourself, it's not a competition. It's just putting yourself in a position to be vulnerable and learn from yourself and learn as you go.
That's a key word. Vulnerable.
We're all so vulnerable, and we don't want to admit it.
Oh no, and that, which is one of the reasons I was throwing you props early, because when you're doing the hospice,
He's pointing to Leslie.
there's a vulnerability that you are putting. You're putting your emotions, your heart. It's on the line.
Well, and talk about
I think that's-
intellectualizing. I mean, my role should be to just be in that moment, and it's a huge challenge for me not to speak or try to fix or try to intellectualize.
I'm
this
going to disagree with your opinion.
I know.
Say, my mother did the same thing. She worked hospice and volunteered, and I can remember hearing the stories from her, and it's like, wow, pretty powerful. Whether you admit it or not, it's wow.
And it's funny, I don't feel like I'm good at it. But one word that when I started doing yoga and meditating was practice. I really latched onto that because I am a perfectionist and I felt like, I need to be good at this. But I love that we call it yoga practice and meditation practice because you're just practicing.
Yeah.
Like you're not trying to get an A+ in your meditation practice. So that word helps me a ton.
Yeah. And Leslie, why did you say that you should be just being when you're with these folks? Why did you say that?
Probably because I'm still balancing the training part with the ease. I'm so new to it that I letting them be in the moment is
So once you
crucial.
get better at it, then you're going to start to intellectualize
More comfortable.
it more when you're with them?
Probably when I'm more comfortable. I don't know if I'm going to get better.
Then you'll start intellectualizing more while
No,
you're with them?
hopefully less.
Yeah. So
Yes.
so what you're saying is that ideally you'd be just being
Yes.
with them. And why? Why is that helpful for them, for these hospice
Well,
folks?
I feel like when you're at that point in life and you don't have as many moments, in theory, like every moment should be cherished and
And how do you
experienced.
and you're saying the way to cherish the moment is to be in it.
yes.
To be in it, not to be
Yes.
escaping in the brain, in the mind, the
Yes.
thinking mind. And that's the point. That's why we want to breathe more consciously so that we show up in the present moment so that we can actually experience the life instead of always thinking ahead a few seconds or a few minutes or reflecting on the past, to actually be here. And that's where when we start to tap into our deepest knowings, we tap into source wisdom, if you will. We tap into creativity. We actually are able to kind of remember ourselves as eternal beings. We connect to our souls.
And more workspaces now and companies are starting slowly to integrate little pauses for their entire. So it's almost like if
I've heard of law firms out in Chicago that are doing that.
Yeah.
They require that their folks take breaks, 10-minute breaks throughout the day, where they meditate together, or they bring in a yoga instructor or something like that to lead them through stretches and mindful breathing.
I'm just watching the two of you. I mean, you guys are doing great.
Well, thank you.
Do you want a radio show?
Yeah, let's do it.
It would be really quiet. We would just sit here breathing.
Yeah, I was going to say, they're all good listeners. That's it. But we do have to take a break. And then we're going to be back with...
We can breathe during the break.
That's it. Take a breath.
sounds good.
Take a deep breath.
Will it be recorded to prove that we did?
No.
I know. Okay.
No.
It's not. It
It's a
doesn't
leap
count
of faith
then.
here, Jim.
Doesn't
Leap
count.
of faith. Allison, Leslie, and Jim back on the other side. Welcome back to the Leslie, Jim, and Allison show. This morning, talking about blending wellness approaches. Okay, how long was that commercial break?
3 minutes, 10 seconds.
And you still haven't given us the answer about the 6 breaths. What are you waiting for?
The answer?
Yeah.
The answer is to breathe.
Yeah, but why the 6? Why numbers? Why 6 breaths?
He said,
I
he
described
told
that.
I heard
It's
the
on
answer.
record, Peter. We recorded this. I'm going to play it
I
back.
heard
for
the
you.
answer.
And you know what? You're continuing to avoid breathing right now. I knew we were going to go the entire show without ever breathing.
Are you feeling vulnerable?
And we've did it. We've
Yes.
done it.
Yes, I am.
How does that feel? How does that feel in your body? What's the emotion you're feeling?
He's getting
Are we
red.
done yet? Okay, no.
I'm feeling anxious and
Good.
Oh man, oh man,
Now we got
oh man.
something to work with.
So how do people? I think fundamentally people are good. This is the Pollyanna in me.
I'm going to breathe while you're talking, Peter.
I feel that people are fundamentally good. They fundamentally want to do the right thing, and unfortunately, they're pulled in other directions that are contrary to whatever. How do they get centered? How do they get back to do it?
Breathe.
6.
well, it's like we were talking about during the break, just realizing that you're never going to be perfect at something. Like when we talk about meditation practice, yoga practice, Leslie had mentioned that she likes the word practice. So just kind of laying down all your expectations for what it should be, and just this push for perfection, and just saying it's going to be a practice. I'm never going to master it, but coming to it every day, saying like, okay, it's a clean slate. I'm going to learn something new. I'm going to kind of give myself permission to feel vulnerable or screw up, but also I'm responsible for learning how to grow from that and picking myself up and trying again. So having small, sustainable changes that you can work on, whether it's, taking, just a moment for a deep breath throughout the day, just to kind of quickly hit that reset button, or maybe, making one different decision when you're at the grocery store, or maybe, taking a moment to move your body, bend in yoga poses, or just stretch, or going for a walk. Like any small decision that you make, a lot of people think like, oh, well, this isn't going to add up to anything. Like, what did I get out of this? How many calories did I burn? Like, that's not the point. It's if you add all those up, yes, you will see changes over time, but it's even in that moment, the change that you feel from one moment to the next, so you can make the next best decision.
Well, see, and as you were saying that, I'm thinking about the people who are saying, well, if I'm not ever going to master this,
Right,
what's the point? How do you counter? I mean, how do you sit there and go, but it's not about mastering it.
Right.
So that you can enjoy your life.
Right. They want that
Mastering will
challenge
not-
of
But
mastery.
that's a hard sell.
Mastering will not bring you any more joy, believe it or not. The so-called mastering of yoga. There is
It will not bring you any more
because
joy. I like that.
What really is the mastering of yoga or meditation is when you are able to tap into joy. It's not about anything external. It's not an external gauging or an external judging of how your posture looks or how long your breaths are. It's how you are experiencing life. Are you equanimous? Are you peaceful? Are you present? That's real mastery. And we've got it all wrong. We think it's how the posture looks, how toned your muscles are, blah, blah, blah. It's not an external assessment of how you're doing. It's how you're being.
When people come to you and want to do yoga, do you find that they're like emotional and physical train wrecks? They're just so wrapped up in life and
They would never say so. But you can see it.
but you can see it.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So once you sit there and start listening and start saying, try this, and they see the benefits, are they going to take it and run with it?
Once you experience a benefit, once you have an experiential learning, you're much more likely to return to it. And that's why I've been trying to get you to breathe for the entire show.
I can't.
So that you'll have that experience, and then you'll want to return to it. And Allison and I won't have to remind you to do it. You'll do it because your body knows it's
See,
the
the
right
show's
thing to
over
do.
now. Now I can do it. Now I can breathe because I'm worried about one of you guys, so I have to stay constantly up.
Yes, we're so threatening and intimidating. We make you breathe.
This is good.
There
I
you
like
go.
this.
Smiling.
I like this. Thanks, Leslie. That was fun.
My pleasure.
Allison, always a blast seeing you. Thank you.
Nice to see you too.
Jim,
Peter,
I'm going to fall down the stairs. I'm going to need your help in a couple minutes.
If you're in the mood for real food, it's Concord Food Co-op.